Joe Lion's Big Boots.
Chapter 1. Joe Lion was small. He was the smallest in his class. He couldn't even reach to feed the goldfish. "It's only me who can't reach," said Joe. He was the smallest in his family too. Big brother Ben could reach the biscuit jar easy peasy. Sister Susan could reach it easy peasy too. But Joe, he couldn't reach it, not even on tiptoe. "I'm fed up with being small," he said to Mum and Dad. "I was small once," said Dad. "You'll grow bigger one day," Mum told him. But Joe wanted to be bigger now. "I'll wish myself bigger," he said. He shut his eyes and wished. He was still wishing when he went to bed. But the next morning he was the same small Joe Lion. "Wishing hasn't made me bigger," he said. "I'll have to think of something else." He went to the big comfy chair where he did his thinking. But what was this on the chair? It was Mum's new book, How to Grow Sunflowers. "Aha!" grinned Joe. "That gives me an idea." Big brother Ben had a how-to book, just the book Joe wanted. He raced up to Ben's room. On the bed he saw the book, How to Build Yourself a Bigger Body. Joe read through it in a flash. To get bigger, he had to eat lots of food like pasta. Yum! "I have to work out too," said Joe. "I know where I can do that." Chapter 2. Joe ran all the way to Gus Gorilla's gym. Gus was big, very big. "Working out seems to do the trick," thought Joe. "I can't wait to start," he said to Gus. "What do I have to do?" "You stand on this and run," said Gus. Joe ran on the running machine. Then it was onto the exercise bike. After that, it was the rowing machine. "Now lift these weights, young Joe," said Gus. "Lift them good and high." Joe's arms ached, his legs ached, even his little finger ached. But he wanted to be bigger. He picked up the weights. He lifted them good and high until a weight fell. Crash! "Yikes! It nearly hit my foot. That's the end of working out for me," said Joe. But he was still determined to get bigger. "Now I'm not working out," said Joe. "I'll do lots of extra eating to make up for it." Wherever Joe went, whatever Joe was doing, it was munch, crunch, gobble. At home, munch, crunch, gobble. At school, munch, crunch, gobble. On the bus, munch, crunch, gobble. Even in the bath, munch, crunch, gobble. "I must be bigger by now," said Joe at last. He went to have a look in the mirror. He didn't like what he saw. "Oh no!" he groaned. After all that working out and eating, he was bigger. Yes, bigger, wider. "But I want to be bigger, taller," said Joe. Sister Susan had got bigger, taller in just 5 minutes. He asked her how she did it. "I put on my high-heeled shoes," she said. "Aha!" said Joe. "That gives me an idea." Chapter 3. Joe rushed into Ernie Elephant's shoe shop. "I need some shoes to make me bigger, taller," he said. "Boots are best for that," said Ernie. Joe tried on lots of boots, but none of them made him as big or taller as he wanted. "I can make you some," said Ernie, "but it'll cost you, and it's money in advance." Joe paid Ernie. "It's all the money I've got, but it will be worth it," said Joe. "I'll bring them round. Delivery is free," said Ernie. Joe couldn't wait for the new boots to arrive. But at last, here was Ernie. Now for the big moment. Joe took the lid off the box. He took out his new boots and put them on. "This is more like it," said Joe. He went to show the others. "Surprise! Surprise! I'm lots bigger, taller now." They were surprised, all right. Too surprised to speak. Bigger, taller Joe could do lots of things he couldn't do before. He could reach the hall light. He turned it on and off just because he could. He could reach the rope to swing from. He could see over Gus Gorilla's fence. His new boots made a great noise too. Clump, clump, clump. "I'll call them my clumping clumpers," said Joe. "That's a good name for them," said Mum. But the next morning, Mum said, "You can't wear those things to school." "I've got to wear them," said Joe. In his clumping clumpers, he wouldn't be the smallest in the class. "I feel like an ant that's turned into a giant," he said as he set off down the path. Today was going to be his best school day ever. Chapter 4. Joe made his way to the bus stop. "I like this bigger, taller me," he said. He was closer to the sky and could feel the sun better. He saw the bus coming and ran to catch it, or tried to. In his clumping clumpers, he could only clump, clump, clump. The bus went without him. Joe was late for school. Mrs. Croc wasn't pleased. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Croc," said Joe. "It was my clumping clumpers." "Can I feed the goldfish?" he asked. But the goldfish was already fed. At break, his mates were playing football. Joe was good at scoring goals, but not in his clumping clumpers. Joe was glad to get home. "Biscuit jar, here I come." He reached it, easy peasy. now to watch his favourite television programme, Super Lion in Space. But then Mum said, "Hang up your coat, Joe. You can reach the hook in your clumping clumpers." And that was just the start of it. Joe could reach lots of things he couldn't reach when he was small Joe Lion, like the kitchen sink. "You can take your turn at washing up," said Big Brother Ben. Like the toy shelf. "You can put your toys up there yourself," said Sister Susan. Washing up, tidying up. "It's all I seem to do these days," said Joe. But he couldn't do much else in his clumping clumpers. Later, Joe's mates were off to the park. "Are you coming, Joe?" they asked. He shook his head. He couldn't join in the games. "I can only clump," he said. "I'm off for a walk." Joe clumped off down the street. Clump, clump, clump. But what was up with Jeff Giraffe? "He looks like he's in trouble," said Joe. Chapter 5. Joe soon discovered that Jeff was in trouble. "Daffy Giraffe that I am, I've locked myself out," he said. "I came outside to pick some flowers and I left the bath running." Joe saw the problem at once. Left to itself, the bath would overflow and Jeff's house would be flooded. Joe spotted the bathroom window. It was open. "You can get in there," he said. Jeff got his head in. "But my bottom half won't fit," said Jeff. "The window's too small." "Leave it to me," said Joe. He knew what he must do. First, off with his clumping clumpers. Now it was Super Joe Lion to the rescue. Up the drain pipe, in through the window. The water was rising fast, and lots of soapy bubbles with it. "I must act at once." Joe reached for the plug. It was too far down. He would have to go in. He got up on the side of the bath and jumped. Splash! He couldn't see through the bubbles, and his breath was running out. But he must get to the plug. Got it! He pulled the plug and out it came. The water gurgled down. Glug, glug, glug. Joe whooshed the bubbles out the window. Then he skimmed back down the drain pipe. He saw a crowd had gathered. Mum and Dad were there, and Brother Ben and Sister Susan and Gus and Ernie and Mrs. Croc and all his mates. They were waiting for news. Quickly, Joe told them. "Jeff's house is safe from flooding by bath water, and it's safe from bubbles too." They all gave a cheer. Hooray for Super Joe Lion! Joe felt very proud. He was Super Joe Lion, just as he was. He didn't need his clumping clumpers. "My clumping days are over," said Joe. "Being me is best. I don't want to be bigger. Well, not yet."